Hi there, this is Matt at State of Flux here with a review for Star Trek First Contact. This is the sequel to Star Trek Generations and an infinitely better movie. This movie really acts as a sequel to Best of Both Worlds, Part 1 and 2, and kind of works best if you've only watched that episode and not like some of the sequel episodes involving the Borg, Borg, and whatnot. Because Picard is a character fractured and haunted by what the Borg did to him. How they made him alien to himself, and he hates them and he loathes them. Having episodes like Borg completely undercuts that because he knows that there is a way to redeem and save these people through which he was redeemed and saved, but so was the character in Borg, the Borg that he sort of develops and sees as a person rather than as this bug of a collective kind of thing. So that criticism notwithstanding, this is a very good movie. If you've never seen the show, it works as a good introduction to the Borg. The Borg, I think, are largely... they're very similar to zombies. A lot of people love the Borg, and I think that love is often misplaced. I don't think the Borg are as great of villains as a lot of people make them out to be, and this movie is kind of proof positive of that with the whole changing what they are. In the show, the Borg very much are a collective, a monstrous unit of single mind. Well, in this, in order to give character to the villain, they give a head to that singular mind in the form of the Borg Queen. Now, the introduction of the Borg Queen works for this movie, and it provides character to the zombies in so many ways. That said, it works for me, and it works within this movie, and I like how the Borg Queen has this relationship with Picard that you can have them distant from each other the entire time, but have a presence of each other every time you cut back to them, while also giving a really neat kind of counterpart to Data. I've said I'm not a huge Data guy. I think Data in the show, he didn't work for me as much. He felt like Spock Light or a redo of Spock, just less successful. Performed by a very gifted actor in Brent Spinner, or Spiner, however you want to say it. That said, I thought in the movies they did his character justice, pretty much in all four of them, to some extent. But his best use was in Generations and First Contact. And I really like the parallels that are drawn between Data, this cyborg trying to become, or this android trying to become man, and the Borg, which are cybernetic organisms that were once man that are wishing to be more human. And I think the parallels drawn there were never capitalized ever on the show, beautifully capitalized in this. But I've been talking a lot about the Borg. They are not the aspect with which this film works best. The thing that I love in this film is the whole notion of First Contact. This is a time travel drama, after all, and in this one, the Borg have a critical blow. They're about to be obliterated as the threat of the Federation, and in a last-ditch effort to change things, they whip back in time and try to prevent First Contact from ever happening by assimilating Earth early. So the Enterprise and crew go and try to do their stoppage of them, and the movie splits into two parts. It splits into essentially what is an Aliens kind of retread on the Enterprise, where you have Picard waging a war against the things that stole his life. Or a certain aspect of his life, and you have a lot of close quarters scenes where there's like crawling through tunnels, and you don't know where the Borg are going to pop out, or if a character is infected with the Borg. There's a lot of action and gunplay, and all that stuff works. But the stuff that I love the most is the stuff downstairs on Earth trying to ensure first contact happens. And they explore something really neat. Star Trek's always been cerebral. That's what I like about this show. And a lot of the movies after this one kind of throw the cerebralism of the show away. And that's a damn shame. Because when Star Trek is trying to say something, speak to the inner humanity within all of us that can be shared through different species even, is when the show is the most interesting. And this one tackles the concept of heroification. The very human tendency of taking a historical figure and thrusting their importance upwards, masking any kind of human defect they may in fact have. And you have the character of Zefram Cochrane that they do this with. And he is beautifully performed by James Cromwell, who I think this is his best performance. I know he was Oscar nominated for Babe, and he's been in many other great projects rather. But I love his performance as Cochrane in this film. He's cocky, he's an ass, but you also can see the person that's going to be speaking within that will be able to engage with future generations for the important thing he's about to do. And he's doing it for all the wrong reasons. He wants greed. He wants money. He wants pride. He wants to be able to say he can do it so he can retire and fuck all. And it's great that this movie explores that, because oftentimes the heroic figures from our past aren't very heroic. They're pretty downright detestable in a lot of ways. But we pull those things that make them human away from them, peel them off like an onion, and leave only the heroic, virtuous aspect of them that we praise for generations to come. And I love that this movie fully digs down its heels and explores that. And how meeting this crew, talking with Geordie and Riker and Troi, who actually has something to do this time around, thank Christ, in talking to them, he's both disgusted at the idea of being this mythical, monolithic man, and also gets inspired by them because he learns that he does have to facilitate this role in the future. And this is a really kind of neat jumping in point for this character and this concept and stuff like that. And I get why this is one of the best Star Trek movies, because it's truly one of the best Star Trek movies. And it does so by getting into the characters. Jonathan Frakes directed this, and he does his best work as a feature filmmaker in this film. He is so damn good as a director. He knows when to let the character moments sit there and speak. And he knows how to deliver some pretty engaging action and atmospheric, kind of spooky stuff. And there's like a neat little cameo from one of the Voyager characters. And this is a well-constructed movie for fans of Star Trek, for newcomers to Star Trek. I would not be surprised if this one is often passed around as like, oh, you want to be interested in Star Trek? Check this movie out. It's really good. Because it is. It's just that. It's really good. And it does great things for the character of Picard, having him explore his past. As I say, some of this stuff was explored in Next Generation seasons 4, 5, 6, 7, and done so probably a little bit better because he's grown away from that hatred and vengeance. However, ignoring them, which the movies kind of largely do, it is a great examination of the character of Picard, and it gives Patrick Stewart a lot to work with. He has some great performances in this film, and it's because of who he's acting opposite. I think the biggest unsung hero for this entire film is Alfre Woodard, who is phenomenal in everything that she's in. Whenever she's in something, I always perk up right in my seat because she is that good of an actress. and she is great at kind of pulling performance from the person she's acting opposite. Go back in her career and look at some of the great performances that not only she has given, but the person acting opposite of her has given. Oftentimes, it's, for my feelings, some of the best work they've ever done is because when you have two gifted actors that are just fully in the moment, you get something magical. And I think she does great work in this, and she's kind of a throwaway character, but she's really not. And her whole fight with Picard over the Captain Ahab thing is just so effing fantastic. Frakes really knocked it out of the park at getting both of their performances on screen perfectly. Great uses of close-ups and medium shots, going wide when necessary. He has a good visual eye and great at capturing performance. But this film also gives stuff to do for all the other people. I like when Worf is brought back on board. His whole segment is really cool in how he gets back onto the Enterprise and how he is sort of taking one of the leads in striking down the Borg and having conflict with Picard, which is fantastically drawn drama. I like everything Riker and Troi and Geordie are doing on the surface planet. You have some great stuff with Geordie, and Riker and Troi has something to do, as I said before, and I love her little drunken scene where she can't really handle it, and she's so just pissed off at Cochrane. That stuff is really great. The only one that gets lost in the shuffle here entirely is Gates McFadden's Beverly Crusher. She has like one or two brief moments, but is completely forgotten in the film, and it's a damn shame. She was on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast talking about her dissatisfaction with how her character was used in the 4 films, and it's completely justifiable. When I first saw all 4 of these movies, I did not realize she was a main character from the show, because I'd never seen the show. And the fact that she kind of gets the most to work with in Generations, and she's still relatively forgettable in that, had to have been so frustrating for her. And if you haven't listened to the Michael Rosenbaum podcast, he does interviews with a lot of the Trek cast members, from Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner, Gates McFadden, Will Wheaton. They're really interesting, like 90-minute interviews, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I like his Inside of You podcast just in general. Highly recommend listening to and or watching that. But yeah, I love this movie. I think visually it is some of the strongest work in any of the Star Trek films to this point. It's not quite as visually engaging, at least to me, as Nicholas Mayer's Star Trek VI, but pretty darn close. I really like the inclusion of the Borg and how they weave into the story, and how First Contact is made such an important thing. And I think this is where I'm going to deviate a bit from the rest of my Star Trek reviews. I said I was going to do things out of order, and I did Star Trek animated series, first movie, second, third, fourth. I skipped 5 because I said I was going to review that later. 6. Then I did Next Generation, Generations, First Contact. I'm not going to review Insurrection yet. We'll get there. The next set of reviews I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks is I'm going to go into Star Trek Enterprise, because I think that is the next logical point with which to go. We have seen the journey of the Enterprise from Kirk all the way to Picard, and in this we hurl back to even before Kirk to see what First Contact is. And First Contact and the character Zefram Cochrane has such a strong ripple effect through the TV show Enterprise, and the fact that this movie's last shots, in fact, are of Earth in that distant past, or our future. I'm going to pick up this story with Enterprise. And Enterprise kind of gets us moving forward once more so that we can once more meet Kirk and then later Picard. And so I'll kind of switch up my viewing habits. From here on out, it's going to be Enterprise. Then I'll do the 3 Abrams Star Trek films, the Kelvin timeline. I'll do Star Trek V at that point, Insurrection Nemesis, and then I'll go into Picard before going into some of the wider Star Trek lore. But that's sort of my update of where these reviews are going to be going in the next several weeks. It's going to be a couple weeks before I can get through all of Enterprise. I'm working on it. But I'll give you my review of Enterprise and then go into the movies again. So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this movie. I absolutely love it. I give it a very firm 3.5 out of 4 stars. It is the best, in my opinion, of the Next Generation films. Most people agree with that. I think there's very little conflict with that assertion. It is very good dramatic storytelling and some of the best Star Trek, easily in the top 5 Star Trek movies. But we'll touch on that once I've reviewed all of them. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.